Hey guys, Dylan from Noble Records coming at you with another video. So, my wife's not in town right now. She's out of town for 2 days. And so when something like that happens, I spend a lot more time in the record room, try to make some videos. My goal while she's gone for these 2 days is to get my record room right. So I spend a lot of time out here getting everything organized. My goal is to do a tour video, a room tour. I've not done that since we moved into this house. I feel like every other house that we had before this, I just didn't have a really good room. This room is great. It's the dream room for me. So anyways, I'm excited to do a room tour, but I have not had it organized the way I want it since we moved in. So it'll be nice to get everything organized and everything in good shape so we can do a good tour video. But first one I'll show is the Pied Piper of Funkingham. This is an absolute smoker of a funk record. I've been looking for this record freaking forever. It's on this Chocolate Charlie's record label, which is from Gastonia, North Carolina, which is right down the road. Man, this is a killer funk record. It's flute funk. It's funk with flute in it. It's out of this world. It's that same flavor as the if you're familiar with another thing on the label is there's a Gaston record that's on that label. There's another Gaston record that's on Hotlanta. There's some really cool, like, killer funky stuff on this Chocolate Charlie's label. But this is a fantastic record. I've been looking for a really long time. So that got this week. Another one, a friend of mine, his name is Chris Conklin. He's a super nice guy. We trade back and forth hard rock records, and he's one of the only people I really talk to a lot about it because he's real deep into it like I am. And we kind of introduce each other to stuff and all that. So he's a good friend, and he was selling this Genghis Khan well cut. It's the first press. It was only pressed in France and Canada. This is the first French press. Really killer hard rock, kind of prog type stuff. It's an absolute ripper. Love this record. Been wanting one for a long time. He had one he was giving up. And also, I told him I was looking for D.R. Hooker's second record. So D.R. Hooker, The Truth. I've got it on my wall over there. It's one of the biggest, baddest records in my whole collection. But D.R. Hooker did another record called Armageddon, which I've been looking for this for a while. It's just hard to find. It doesn't come up much. It's not really super expensive. I think they usually go for like $150 to $200, and they just don't come up very often. I actually bought one on Discogs about a year ago, and the guy messaged me. It's like, sorry, I don't have it anymore. One of those, and I was like, dang it. But anyways, he had a friend who had one, and he bought it and sent it to me as a gift, so it's super, super nice of him. And he also sent me this as a gift, Townes Van Zandt in Pain, which is a hard one to get out of print. Really killer record, and it will help me get closer to completing all the towns I need. I have pretty much every towns I need, but I did not have that one, so that's kind of nice. Let's see what else we got here. Kind of sifting through. I already did this video, so I'm having to kind of do it backwards. All right, let's go. We'll do this. This was the Hamburg Spinners, Scorpion in Stiefel. So feel really bad. Somebody sent me a message on Instagram, said that they were coming to the shop from Germany and asked when I would be there. And I told them I'm usually there on Fridays and Saturdays, and that's true. But this one particular, I think they came on a Friday. This one particular day I had to cut out early for something, and I didn't realize they were going to be there. I'm not always there, but anyways, they just missed me by like 10 minutes. But they brought me this record, and I didn't know what to expect, never heard of it. And this is some killer funk, like jazz funk type stuff. It's like modern jazz funk. If you like the Coal Mine Records stuff, Devon Lamar Organ Trio, stuff like that, this is right up your alley, and it is really, really good. I was very pleasantly surprised. But they brought this and gave it to me as a gift, and I got it when I got back in the shop. But thank you so much for this gift. If you're watching this, and I really enjoyed it. Listening to this today, actually loved it. Some of this stuff is stuff that I'm just pulling out of my collection, revisiting all that stuff. Man, I got records all over the freaking place. This is one, Paul Pena. This is an incredible record. I think I've shown it in another video. I've been listening to this like crazy. It reminds me of a mixture between Bob Seger and Van Morrison with some like really good guitar work. It's got that classic rock type of sound to it. It sounds like a lost classic rock record that should have been popular but wasn't. There's a song called The River. It should have been a #1 hit. It's an incredible song. But anyways, I'm Gonna Make It All Right is another one I think that's the biggest song on the record. I'm Gonna Make It All Right. That one also should have been a #1 hit. This is a absolute killer record. So if you've heard every classic rock record and you want to hear another one that you haven't heard, that's one. It needs to be reissued so bad. It's on Capitol. I would love to reissue it, but stuff on major labels like that's almost impossible. Been listening to a lot of Zamrock lately. This time of year, for whatever reason, kind of the fall, I kind of get back into it. This is Five Revolution's Boyfriends. This is on the Zambia Music Parlor label. I got a clean disc. I need a cover. If anybody has a cover for that, it's called Boyfriends. If you have a cover for that, let me know. But I got a good clean disc, and that's nice. This is one from the Florida collection. I think I mentioned in the last video, I've been dipping back into that Florida collection. I've got like designated cubbies on my shelf. It's like 3 cubbies full of stuff that I haven't listened to yet from the Florida collection, and that was in April. But I go back and pull stuff out and listen to it before I alphabetize it and put it into the abyss. But this is Oliver Sane, Main Man. This is an absolute killer record. I wasn't familiar with this one, and it looked really good, so I set it aside. This is nasty. It's such a funky record. It is absolutely killer. Killer organ work in there, really good guitar work in there. It is a really smoking jazz funk record. I was blown away by this album. So check it out if you haven't heard it. That's an absolute killer one. This is one. So the other day, I was not even like in a buying mood. I was hanging out with my grandma actually. And somebody tagged me in, it was her 88th birthday. So somebody tagged me in a Whatnot video, and I opened it up real quick, and I think it's Bearded Vinyl was selling it. I think it's their name, but they had this Soul Fever, Marie Queenie Lyons. This is kind of a classic funk record, really hard to find clean. I had a reissue of it, but it's kind of a funk grail soul. It's more on the soul side of it, if you want to get technical, but really fantastic record. Like I said, I had a reissue of it, but I've always wanted an original. This one came up. It was a reasonable price, and I snagged it. Really excited to get that one and add it to the collection. This is one called Karen Beth, The Joys of Life. Really good acoustic folk, a psychedelic folk, I guess you'd call it. If you like stuff like Karen Dalton, Joni Mitchell, Rebecca St. John, this is that vein of female singer-songwriter acid folk, as they would call it. But fantastic record, not a terribly expensive record. I think they go for like 30. But found this at the shop, was cleaning out the back room, and I had set, look, when I'm putting stuff back there, I do set stuff aside for myself, and then I forget where I put it. So I got little cubbies of stuff in the back room of stuff I intended to bring home. That was one of them. This is one that came in the shop the other day. This is the Beatles. Beatles for Sale. This is an original UK mono. I don't typically keep Beatles records because I see Beatles records all the time. But this is a really clean OG mono. There was also an OG mono white album in there, which I already had one. So that one's going to go out for our anniversary sale. Every year on our anniversary, like the first weekend in October, we do just a big blowout. We put out a lot of killer stuff. So I start saving up in August, like maybe even July. I start saving up, and then that weekend I just drop a bunch of just face melters. But anyways, this is one. I didn't have a copy of this, so excited to get it. Let's see. I'm not gonna show that. This is a really killer one. This is Rick Asikpo in Afrofusion. This is on the Aphrodisia label. Anything on that label is amazing, usually. this Afrofusion record is out of this world. Really killer synth, psychedelic funk. Just look at that cover. It's amazing. But a friend of mine had this. He put it up for sale, and I jumped on it because it's a pretty clean copy of this. The cover's got some spots on it, but the vinyl is super clean. You don't ever see stuff like this. So was thrilled to jump on that and get it. These went up for sale a couple weeks ago, and I got one. This is the Mac Miller Tiny Desk Concerts on blue vinyl. I just really loved that Tiny Desk set. I'm not really into most modern hip-hop, but there's just something special about him. And even a lot of his like albums I've listened to, and they're okay. I do enjoy them. You know, there's not anything I'm going to turn off if I heard it on the radio, but it's something that I wouldn't really normally gravitate to. But for whatever reason, if you haven't seen the video for this, it's the Tiny Desk Concerts NPR does. If you just type in Mac Miller Tiny Desk, it's got like hundreds of millions of views. It was a month before he died. He did this Tiny Desk, and it was just beautiful performance, and like it was all acoustic instruments and stuff. And so if you're not into him, I still think you might like it. It's really special and so sad, you know, so sad to see. He died of I think the consensus was fentanyl, but I don't know. Anyways, super sad. And that's just one I had to have. The other night, me and my wife, you know, maybe like once a month. This doesn't happen much, but once a month, the kids will be occupied. They'll be playing, hanging out, and she'll come out in my record room with me, and we'll throw some records on. And I'll always try to find things that she doesn't know that she would really like. And I know her really well, and I know my record collection really well, so I usually can find something that she's like, oh, wow, that's pretty nice. So this is one I pulled out. This is Pete Jolly Seasons. This is a promo copy. I've had this for a long time. It is an absolute fantastic, I think you'd call it like a jazz funk, I guess you'd call it, but it's not super funky. It's real laid back. It's like easy listening funk. I really don't even know that it's not really that funky. It's just, some of it is, I guess, but it's real vibey, laid back. Just, oh man, that's good stuff, you know. But it's an absolute killer record. I really think anybody would enjoy this. She really liked it. And then this is another one. It's got a good. She likes a record with a good story, and she probably wouldn't even normally like this record, but the story behind it really drew her in. This is called the Soul Messengers. The Soul Messengers was a band of guys from Chicago, and they all like trace their lineage back to Hebrew roots. So they were African American guys, but they trace their lineage back to Hebrew roots. So they got together. They had this like community of all African Americans that had the Hebrew roots, and they all kind of studied the culture, studied Hebrew language, all that stuff. And eventually they were so devout in the faith and all that they moved out to Israel. They had a lot of issues with, you know, they tried to travel around and play the music and all that stuff, but they just had a lot of racial kickback. It was not easy for them. So they started and stopped the band a few times, but at some point in the 80s, they recorded this record. Everything on it is Hebrew. But the lyrics are, some of them are Hebrew, some of them are English. But what's really cool about this record is that you hear the roots of American funk in with like the Hebrew. Some of it has like more of a Hebrew style to it. So it's like really amazing record. But it's a really good representation, I think, of, you know, you go through a lot of changes in your life, and things from when your past, your childhood or whatever, seep into everything that you do. That's why everybody's individual and they're all unique, is because they're so people have been so many different places. So that's just a really cool fusion of those two worlds that make up who those people are. So it's a very cool record. It's a very cool story. I'm probably butchering it. I'm sure people will in the comments tell me I'm wrong, but that's the gist of the story. You can look it up. It's on this thing called the internet. Alice in Chains Unplugged. Somebody traded in this MOV press of Alice in Chains Unplugged the other day, and I'm having a great dilemma in my soul of whether I should keep it or not. Because, you know, when you own a store, you got to think about, you know, they're going to reissue this at some point, you know, and it might not be MOV like Dirt. The MOV Dirts were high dollar, I don't know, and now they go for like $40, and that was like a few months ago. They go for like $40 because they had that wide reissues, like the 25th anniversary or whatever. I'm sure that they will do the same thing for this. So I really don't know. These are supposed to sound really killer, but these are like $300 now because they have not reissued it. And so I really enjoy the record. I've got a bootleg of it, so I may or may not keep it. And I think it was that same collection. The guy had this Procol Harem self-titled, which is a great record, and I don't have one because I never find them clean, and I only bring stuff home if it's like super clean. And it's got the hype sticker on there, and it's got the poster inside, all that stuff. It's a great Psych record, and I thought I would grab it. This is one with a pretty cool story. So there was a guy that came in the shop. People do this. They come in and they bring you a list of the records they have. And just between me and you, I hate that because you can't look at it. It's like handing someone a piece of paper that says, you know, 1969 Chevelle Super Sport, and you're like, oh, this looks great. But if you were to sit in it, you'd be like, holy crap, this thing's awesome. You know, it's so different, and it's so, I don't know. I have probably too strong feelings about it, but people bring it in, and I don't even want to look at a list. I hate looking at a list. It's just my pet peeve. Anyways, so we had a list, and he's like, would you be interested if I brought this stuff in? I'm sitting there thinking, well, you made this list. It's like 300 records on this list. You could have just brought them. How long would it possibly take you to make this giant list of records? You could have just brought them over. But anyways, whatever. I skimmed through it. I was like, yeah, I'll take a look at them. It was a lot of classic rock and stuff. The guy brings it in, and like the first box is classic rock. The second box is not. It's like easy listening, pop stuff I didn't really want. The classic rock box was good stuff, but in terrible condition. Most of that stuff ended up in the dollar bin. But at the end of the second box, there was a little clump of blues, which I didn't see on the list. I don't know if it was on the list or I missed it or whatever. But this record was in there. Lightning Hopkins, Freeform Patterns. This is a record I've been wanting for so long. So back in the late 60s, early 70s, they were doing this thing like Muddy Waters did Electric Mud. Howlin' Wolf did the Electric Howlin' Wolf record. You know, I think BB King's always kind of been electric, but he had that Mississippi whatever. They all had one that was like a super electric, with dipped in psychedelic type of feel, and so that was kind of in at the time. And so what they would do is like, I think, man, I'm really pulling out of the cobwebs in my brain here. The Muddy Waters one, I know the backing band was The Illusion, and I believe the Howlin' Wolf had the same backing band. I'm not sure about that, but I know that the Muddy Waters one was the band Illusion. This Lightning Hopkins Freeform Patterns is on International Artists, and it was the same label as 13th Floor Elevators. His backing band was the 13th Floor Elevators. Incredible story. Rocky Erickson had no involvement, but it was the band of the 13th Floor Elevators. I think it was the drummer and the bass player. I think there might have been, I can't remember. But Lightning Hopkins plays electric on it too. It's an absolute fantastic record. I absolutely love it. Been wanting it forever. Look at how clean this thing is. I mean, it is cherry. Beautiful copy. As clean as you could probably ever get one. So I was excited to see that one in the wild. So I pretty much bought the whole collection for that record. But also in the blues section, there was this Skip James today. Skip James is an incredible blues musician. I wanted to show this because it reminded me of a story about Skip James. There's a podcast called Disgraceland. I love it. It merges the world of music history and true crime. So it involves crime and music. There's a whole episode about Skip James. And it's really good. But Skip James is kind of a graphic story. I don't really want to give it away, but they do a great job explaining the story. But he basically was with a lady who gave him a STD, and he had to have an operation to have something amputated. That's all I'm going to say. It's a fascinating story. You can check out that podcast to get the rest. This is another one in the case of cleanest record I've ever seen, so I'm keeping it. This is Simon & Garfunkel Bookends, which is an amazing record. I absolutely love this album. But I never find clean ones, almost never. And it's one of those records that I don't ever bring home a copy because I have the Ultra Disc 1 step of it, and I really never see... sometimes they step out like, you're like, man, this is a clean copy, I'm bringing this home. But there's so many records I don't have, like, that are just common records that you see every day that when I want one, I'll grab one. I mean, they're always in the shop. This, I've never seen one that clean. I've never seen one with that sticker. I've seen one with the sticker, but never, like, it's just never been this clean. So this is a clear sticker, bookend, Simon & Garfunkel, and it has special bonus full color poster included. It's got this sticker and everything. It's in the shrink. It has the poster. It's near mint. The absolute perfect copy of this. I'm so stoked to get it. And you might be thinking, you're stoked about a Simon & Garfunkel record? Yes, because if you've ever looked, you know, like, there's never perfect ones. There's always something wrong. And it's such a quiet record. You really need a nice clean one. Anyways, this is a nice clean one that I found while I was cleaning out the back room. And I was like, yeah, that's coming home with Papa. Another one, I've been getting more Blue Notes in the collection as I'm organizing my room. I've got quite a lot of jazz now. I probably have 500 jazz records, honestly. This is a Blue Mitchell, Bring It Home to Me. Original stereo copy. Love Blue Mitchell. Yeah, Billy Higgins on the sticks. This is one that I first heard about this on Crate Diggers, on Gaslamp Killer's Crate Digger episode. This is Rahul Dev Berman, and it's the soundtrack for Mukti. This is, I'm not really into the whole Indian pop, Indian classical type genre. I don't really know much about it. There's a few Indian records that I have that are absolutely killer. The Rupo Disco Jazz one and the Obsession 77 one. There's a few that I have, but this is kind of one that people also gravitate to. There's a dance song on here that's really funky, really killer. The rest of it's kind of like hit or miss for me, but it's worth having for that one song. It's a pretty cool one. Let's see what else we got here. Somebody brought in a bunch of records, and this is the only one in there I really wanted. And it is a horrible copy of Hank Mobley Workout, but it is decent. It probably plays VG. It's got that torn up bottom, and it's an OG mono copy, so it'll be a good filler until I get another one. This is one Donald Byrd, Brass with Voices. It's kind of a cheaper Donald Byrd record, but this is an original 1965 stereo. I had a copy of this that was sealed, and I sold it on Whatnot. So that's a near mint copy, so it all works out in the end. The Three Sounds, it's just got to be. This is a 1963 mono of this. Really, really nice copy. And then this big John Patton, Got a Good Thing Going. This featuring Grant Green. Big John Patton I really like, and his records don't really tend to go for that much. Which I guess some of the organ-based Blue Notes, I'm not brilliant when it comes to jazz by any means, but I think what I've seen is some of the organ-based stuff just doesn't go for as much. I'm not really sure why. I've got, Jimmy Smith records are super cheap. They're like the cheapest Blue Notes ever. But yeah, this is kind of like organ-based, but I love it, and it has Grant Green on it. Really killer record. This is one I got from my buddy. His name's Chris McGee. He goes by Tree. Super tall dude. He comes and visits the shop once a year, I think, maybe twice a year. And he had this Joe Henderson Page 1, and he was letting it go. It's a second press, and I bought it to put it in the shop. I'm gonna listen to it and see. I might keep it. I don't know. But this is the 66 stereo, transitional, non-Liberty second press or whatever. So. I normally try to just keep the first pressings of Blue Note stuff, but this is such a killer Blue Note. I love it so much. Love Joe Henderson so much. Kenny Dorham, Pete LaRocca, Butch Warren. incredible. So I might keep that one. We'll listen to it and see. He also threw this in as a gift. It's original Neil Young without the Neil Young text on there. Very nice of him to do so. I found this in a collection, this Terry Reid, Seed of Memory. Fantastic record. I had a copy already that had a thrash cover but a good disc. This one had a good cover but a warped disc, so I kind of did a little Frankenstein action. This one's in the shrink and everything. Fantastic record. It doesn't even look like it's a good record, but it is probably his best. If you don't know Terry Reid was Jimmy Page's first pick as lead singer for Led Zeppelin, and Terry Reid turned it down. So he could have been the Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin, and we would be a lot more familiar with him. But anyways, he had some really good records. He did his own thing and did it very well. Really good singer, really good guitar player. So that is Terry Reid. Also, I've been listening to this. I've had this for a while. But this is the Lyman Woodard organization, Saturday Night Special. This is on the Strata label. That Strata label is really killer. There's a lot of great stuff on there. A lot of people obviously get it confused with Strata East, which is kind of a sister label of theirs. This is a Detroit-based jazz funk label. Strata East is kind of like avant-garde free jazz type stuff, but this is just Strata. There's not many original Strata records. I think there's like 5 or so. There's not many. There's like 5 or 6. There's under 10, I believe. I think. Anyways, I only have a couple. I have that Malawi one. I have this one. But if you see this one says Kenny Cox, that one right there, it was not released back then, but I guess they found the tapes and they issued it for the first time a couple years ago. I'm not sure if the CJQ Black Hole has been released yet. This Ron English is really killer. It was re-released. And then this is one of the originals that was released back then. Larry Nazaro, I think that's the only one I don't have of the Strata series. But anyways, killer record. Really interesting story with the Strata label. They had so many in the can that they were going to release them. They even had the album covers on the back of the other albums, and they just never released them. And so it's cool that they found the tapes and released them. And last but not least, this Pink Floyd Redux. Magnetic Eye is a label that does these Redux albums, which is like doom, heavy metal doom bands covering other like classic rock bands. So this is all Pink Floyd stuff. It's like doom, stoner, type of sludgy bands covering. There's one of Pink Floyd. There's one of Black Sabbath. There's a Hendrix one. They just did a Soundgarden one. There's a lot of really cool ones in that series. And Logan at the shop kind of got me hooked on them. So I think this is the first one I've gotten from that series. I think I might actually have the Hendrix one too. The Hendrix one is really good. But anyways, that's a cool one. I also wanted to warn you guys of something. Here, everybody come in real close. Serious time, okay? First of all, you're not in any trouble. Second of all, I hear about this happening every once in a while, and I just wanted to let you know, just a PSA, just because I love you. If you're buying records from someone online, and I know I've said this 1,000 times, but just hear me out. It doesn't matter if you think you know them. If you've never met this person and you've never done business with them, do not send them PayPal friends and family. At least don't do it the first time you're doing business with them. If you don't have a rapport with them, you've never actually met them, they just kind of seem like a nice person, go ahead and factor up what 3% would be and on the transaction, and just pay them 3% more and say, hey, I'm not comfortable doing PayPal friends and family since we've never done business before. Why don't I send you this money and add the 3% so you get the same amount? If they're not okay with that, don't do it. I've just heard about a lot of people that have gotten tied up with people doing friends and family and getting burned real bad, especially here lately. For some reason, I'm hearing it a lot. So just be really careful. A lot of times somebody can seem like a really nice person, and then they just ghost you and take your money. So I hope you guys are doing really well. I'm having a good time in life right now, enjoying my life, enjoying my records. And stay tuned. And tomorrow we're dropping those exclusives, so stay on your computers and stuff.